You're watching Black the Vote Digital Housing Forum. My name is Katrina Holland, Executive Director of Community Alliance of Tenants.
And I'm Hannah Holloway, Policy Staff with the Urban League of Portland.
So as you know, there is a lot wrapped up in this November's election. Our values as Oregonians are on the ballot. The housing crisis continues to crumble our communities. And so a group of us Black-led organizations came together to have some real talk with candidates and with people in the know about some of the issues on the ballot. Issues like Black houselessness, issues like access to home ownership, renters, luxury units that are vacant while homeless people are sleeping on the streets. And so we really wanted a chance to dive in and ask some really tough questions. We hope that you'll learn a lot.
Also, a quick note, we as nonprofits take our C3 statuses very seriously. In that effort, we made every attempt to get all candidates to this forum. We made repeated phone calls, emails, moved our schedules and our formatting around in an effort to get everyone here. So the candidates that you will hear from are the candidates who were able to make time for this Black Housing Forum.
We hope that you enjoy. Feel free to share it, send it to your friends, send it to your family, ask tough questions, and make sure that you get out your vote on November 6th.
This is Black the Vote, a digital housing forum. I'm here with Jon Bartholomew from AARP to talk about Measure 104 on this November's ballot. Jon, can you introduce yourself as well as say a little bit about your involvement with the Measure 104 campaign?
My name is Jon Bartholomew. I'm the Government Relations Director for AARP Oregon, and we took a position of no on Measure 104 because we think it's very bad public policy.
And can you describe what Measure 104 would do?
Yes. Measure 104 would amend the state constitution so that any time the legislators want to, say, fix a tax break so that it works better, if it raises taxes on the rich while lowering taxes on the poor, you'd need a supermajority to do that. Or any fee or any disconnection from the federal tax code would also require a supermajority. We already have a supermajority requirement for raising taxes as a whole. But this would extend it so that, let's say, the nursing board wanted to increase the nursing licensing fee by $5, they would require a supermajority in the state legislature to do that.
Okay, and you mentioned that it's a constitutional amendment. So are there other tax exemptions written into the Constitution, or is this a novel idea?
This is an unusual idea. I mean, the requirement for taxes to be passed by a supermajority is in the state constitution. But with corporate tax breaks, that's not in there at all. And there's about 367 tax breaks in the tax expenditure report that you can't tell me that every single thing that's in this works properly. And what Measure 104 would do is that it would put direct spending on a completely different level than spending through the tax code. So just to give an example, on housing, affordable housing, you can either achieve your goal of creating more affordable housing by spending directly. You could say, okay, we're going to take tax dollar revenues and we're going to build an affordable housing complex. Or you can give somebody else a tax break to do it. Now, that direct spending, that has to be approved by the legislature every 2 years, and it can be cut every 2 years on a simple majority vote. Whereas what this would do is say, oh no, you need a supermajority to get rid of that tax break. And we have all sorts of policy goals that many of the ones that are in this tax expenditure report are to help corporations. And those corporations, like there's one in here for depletion of metal mining, and there's one on, where was that horrible one? Production or collection of biomass, which is over $5 million per biennium. Well, why are we putting that on a different level than, say, the direct spending we do on education or healthcare or or senior services, which is senior services is, of course, what we care so strongly about at AARP. And so it makes it harder to get rid of a bad tax break for corporations than it is to cut spending for important social services.
So what is the likely implication for revenue if this passes?
Well, it will probably not change revenue too much right off the bat. What it means is down the road, when there's an effort to try to fix something, it would require a lot more effort to do so. I'll give an example. A few years ago, there was we had the senior medical deduction, which meant that anybody over a certain age, if there was any medical expenses in their household, it would they could deduct it from their taxes. Now, it was set up so that you had to itemize your taxes to do that. So it was only people making over a certain amount of money that were actually taking this tax break. And we found, well, that's not working the way it intended. So we ended up, the state legislature decided, okay, we're going to put some caps on this. We're going to make it a subtraction instead of a deduction. That way, lower income people can have their medical expenses written off, whereas wealthier people don't get this break anymore. Well, in doing so, that did increase revenue that then was spent on a whole bunch of senior services like Oregon Project Independence, which helps keep people in their own homes longer. And that's the kind of thing that Measure 104 would kind of screw up that process. By requiring a supermajority, one of the things it does is that it creates a leverage point for any person in the party out of control to, get what they want. Because now it's like you're going to need that extra vote. And so they can take any fee, whether it's, like I said, nursing fee, a fee for bank registrations. There's so many fees that the state has that actually help with consumer protection that you could just point at any one of those fees and you could lord it over the rest of the legislators saying, oh, you want this thing to pass? Well, I want my special thing.
Right. Okay. So it sounds like it gives the minority party in the Salem legislature an outsized influence in revenue decisions.
Exactly. We call it that it creates a super minority. It's like that you have this extra power by the minority party.
So what is the one takeaway? If people are to remember one thing about Measure 104, what would you want them to know or to think about when thinking about 104?
Measure 104 is completely unnecessary and is going to cause all sorts of problems that are going to lead to an imbalance in power between spending for regular people, social services for regular people, versus corporate special interests. Corporate special interests are going to be at an advantage over spending on education and healthcare. And that's not something that we want to put in the state constitution. This is a constitutional amendment that is unnecessary and is going to create all sorts of problems down the road.
Is there anything else you'd like to add, John?
Yes, what I would encourage people to do is take a look at who is for Measure 104 and who is against Measure 104. And I think you will see there that this is really an issue of corporate interests versus interests for the rest of us.
Great. Well, thank you for being here, John.
Thank you.